Hi, welcome back to Something Private. This is a special episode. You guys can tell by the change in music, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, turn it up, go a little something like this. Now drop the beat.
You know the guys that run one of the OG hair removal parlors in Singapore, Strip? Well, they have another brand called Tulips, and they've invited us to join them on their little mission to teach you guys about your little sister. That's right, I'm talking about your vulva. We're clueless and a little embarrassed to talk about our vulvas, but we're so curious and we meddle with her all the time. Just think about all the hair removal hacks and cranberry juice tips all across social media. But caring for your vulvas is more than just an aesthetic conquest. She plays a big part in our overall health and well-being, so how do we keep our little sister well cared for? Join us as we voyage through the vulvaverse with our friends at Tulips and Strip in a 5-part mini-series every last Wednesday of the month. Hi, Dr. Angela.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Dr. Angela is actually a friend of the podcast for a really long time, and she was our second guest on the episode Making Masturbation Mainstream, which incidentally, by the way, is our most popular episode to date.
I guess masturbation really hit a highlight of negativity in the 1700s, where it was described as a disease. It still is?
Yeah, I guess it just shows like what everybody's interested in. We have like statistics, right? So there's like a search in the numbers. It's like,
That's quite interesting.
so tell me a bit about yourself.
I'm a family physician by training, so I do see patients on a regular basis. And on top of that, I'm trained in sexual health and sexual medicine. So as a coach, my clients' relationship issues, they tend to also have bedroom issues. And as a result, I see that, I need to either find someone who is going to help my patients or my clients with bedroom issues, or I got to figure it out. And when I did a search online, unfortunately in Singapore at that point in time, that was like 5 or 6 years ago, there was very little help or little professional help that I can refer my patients or clients to. And that was when I said, well, if no one can solve my problem, I'm going to solve my own problem. And that was when I ended up in Europe to get myself certified as one of their fellows under the European Sexual Medicine Society.
So is it accurate to call you a sexpert?
I'll just call myself, the family doctor who has a special interest in sexual medicine and able to help you out with bedroom challenges.
On that note, we've invited you to kind of come back to talk about something similar to, I guess, like self-pleasure and self-love, but a bit different. And we are going to touch on how social media and pornography causes genital shame. I'm thinking about like the very first time like I even was made to be aware of like my female parts down there. I feel like, I don't know, like maybe my first encounter of thinking about my private parts or my vulva and my vagina was like in secondary school, like during sex education. And then that was like that one instance where the teacher goes like, oh, this is, or like a bio class, right? Like this is your vagina, this is the female part, this is the vulva. But I think that was maybe the first ever memory I had of like, being aware that this is my genitals. Yeah.
Right. I guess it's very similar for most of us. Because it's like when our parents shower us when we were kids, I don't think they go around labeling different body parts in detail, especially when it comes to genitals. They just say, let mommy wash you here, or let daddy wash you here. They don't say, let me wash your vulva, let me wash your penis, and this is your butthole, that kind of thing. It's kind of like screened over. Yeah, and then unknowingly, I guess the kind of sense of shame kind of get passed on. As something like it shouldn't be mentioned.
Yep.
It reminds me of Harry Potter. Thou who shall not be named.
Yeah, it's true. No? And I was on that note.
Yes.
I guess like we have a lot of like funny names for like our genitals, right? Like I remember, and a very common one I feel like all of y'all can identify with is like for girls or like girls with like vulvas, they'll be like, clean your pet,
Okay.
And then for guys it's like, clean your, or like they always make fun like boys have like cuckoo bird, that kind of thing, right? Yeah.
I guess when it comes to doctor's room, it's very different because it's very professional. One of the things is that there's a misnomer called vagina. Like the vagina is actually the canal that's inside. It's not really outside, but a lot of people will label female parts as vagina, which is incorrect.
And I think it's also like the fact that like, when you are young, I mean just thinking about it, like when I was a child, you were told to like protect yourself, right?
Yes.
And then your parents will say like, you shouldn't show your private parts to like strangers, of course, right? Or like you must take care of like your private parts, don't let anybody touch it for your safety. But also I guess then that kind of built like the environment of like shame in talking about your
Yeah,
genitals.
but I think there's a line that we can draw between shame and respect. Okay, like if you respect somebody, you're not going to scold them or insult them. Neither are you going to hide them. You get what I mean? But no, why should we do that to our own private parts? Can't you just respect it for what it is instead of shaming it and hiding it? I mean, it's really funny because now my 2.5-year-old who is speaking will go around say, you know, her friend has got penises and vulvas. I mean, she got it all wrong. I mean, like boys and girls, she doesn't identify vulvas as girls and penis as guys.
That's great.
Yeah, she just said, you know, so and so has got a vulva.
Yeah.
Like so and so has got a finger.
Yeah.
So and so has got an elbow.
Yep.
That's exactly the same tone she says it at. I think that is really where we don't draw the line between shame and identifying a body part as a body part. That brought me into a story. So years back, I was working with a client on actually weight loss. She was overweight and she wanted to lose weight. And of course, you know, with coaching, it does help to enhance the whole weight loss program because you're looking at the psychology more than just the diet and the exercise. So one of the conversations that we had was about, you know, tell me about your body parts. Is there something that you like or you don't like? And we work from there. And it was interesting, you know, how she told me that her vulva was actually the part that she doesn't like at all.
She identified it herself.
Yeah, she did. And I was kind of taken aback because I would have thought it would be like, you know, the waistline, the thighs or something, right? That is very outward looking. And I was shocked because at that point in time, I wasn't quite trained in sexual medicine. I'm like, oh dear, no, how should I proceed with this? I'm like, this is a new problem I'm having. Damn. But, you know, as I just let that go and I continued the conversation with her, I realized that she has a great challenge in embracing her own femininity. Who she is as a woman. I mean, she's been single for a while, a couple of failed relationships. And things hasn't been working very well in this whole relationship domain of her life. And of course, it points out to some personal reasons that she had about how her identity as a woman was never fully embraced that way. So it goes to show, like, you know, vulva is just kind of one aspect of this whole identity of what a woman is. It can be the boobs, it can be the eyes, it can be anything. But what is important is how are we actually embracing ourselves as a woman in this modern society where we're expected so much more than just giving birth. You see, and that's where all the complex stuff starts coming.
Interesting because I think like I find it very interesting that she identified like vulva as like the first part to feel
Like
that she doesn't like.
Yeah.
Because I think if you were to ask me, I think it's a common question. I don't know. Like people sometimes will ask you like, what is maybe one part that you want to change about yourself, right? And I think like the vulva doesn't really come into mind mainly because I think like saying it out loud is also a bit of like
taboo, right?
A shameful thing, right?
I don't know why, but yes, there's also a certain level of shame around sex. We grew up in a relatively traditional culture, I would say, and sex is something that is a big no-no until you're married. So before sex, you're always being thought, you know, like sex is dirty, you should stay away from it, it's not for you, you know, all these things. But then the moment we sign the marriage cert, it's supposed to switch over to, I'm ready for sex. Sex is going to be pleasurable, it's going to be enjoyable, it's going to be the best thing of my life. But with that 20 over years of indoctrination, you can't just wipe away, you know, a statement like that. So a number of women has got vaginismus issues where their pelvic floor is really tight and penetration is difficult. So as I, you know, explore it with some of my clients, they do realize that a part of it is not just a fear of pain that is associated with penetration. So most of my clients who have such an issue, they face some form of taboo or shame and embarrassment around their private parts and they're unable to relax. Vaginismus is essentially a condition where penile vaginal penetration is difficult because of the tension on the pelvic floor. So these women may feel pain or may not feel pain, but penetration is just not possible.
I have had conversations with friends where I tell them like, you know, I after speaking with you and like Dr. Jess all that, like I will look at like my vulva or like even when I do my own like shaving and stuff like that, right? I will use a mirror and a lot of them have never like looked at like their vulva before.
Yes.
Or like I think even like when you say like vulva last time, they're like hee hee hee. You know, like it's like a funny thing to say, like I see, you know.
Additional to the looks of it, I think more women are concerned with the smell. Yeah, I mean, got to pull out some studies, but I think we're not wrong. More than half the women are concerned on how they smell, and hence they're quite resistant to have men going down under.
This is a very interesting point. I think a lot of them also think that like it has to smell like flowers or like fruits. I don't know if you've seen, so like there is actually a trend on like TikTok that
Okay, and then
basically like the girls, like they have like tips on like how to make their genitals like smell better before sex. So it'd be like go and drink like cranberry juice, or like go and eat like pineapple slices, or like eat good bacteria like yogurt and stuff like that. So the day before like they
Okay, I don't know how well that works, because essentially, you know, the vagina is a whole canal full of bacteria, which is important because we need this good bacteria to protect the skin layers so that, you know, the bad bacteria cannot come in. So if there is a hole, like, you know, there's a gap, you know, one of the troops kind of died, then the bacteria can actually come in and invade the whole vagina, end up with vaginal infection. So it's like I was telling people, you know, this is a whole colony of various bacteria in your vagina to keep you safe. So it's going to smell like kombucha. You know, like
that's one I've heard before. Yeah.
So that's how it smells originally. And then when we try to alter the smell with different chemicals, we do vaginal douching and whatever, we are actually killing off the good bacteria. And the chance of us getting a bad bacterial infection is going to increase. So I was interviewing males about what they think about, you know, smelling.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because there are a couple of males who have a good number of experiences with different partners. They realize that every woman smells different. And it doesn't matter. Because if you're just in the moment of everything, you kind of just embrace the smell. You don't like, ew, you know, this is horrible, I'm going to move away from this person. I mean, if you have a partner who can't focus on sex, maybe it's time to change your partner. I don't know.
Say it louder for the people at the back. I totally agree. I think that's great. I think like everybody is unique and special, right? So like I think no one person will smell like the other.
Yeah.
And from our conversation with Dr. Jess in the previous episode, only when it's a situation where like it smells different than usual, then I guess that you should go and seek help.
Correct.
For a lot of us, when we grow up, a lot of our sex education, I think it's a common trait, right? A lot of us agree that our sex education is really limited. And as a result, a lot of us learn about sex or like our body parts through, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I guess, pornography. How does pornography like affect the way we see ourselves?
I mean, I think it's worse for males to a certain extent, because in pornography, you always got big penises. Like, seriously, unreasonably big. That, you know, no girl, if you ask them the right mind, will want a big penis in them.
It's true.
Yeah, okay, so that's one thing. But then for females, you end up seeing a lot of them are cleanly shaven. You know, some of them a little bit more pink, a bit more clean. You know, it gives you the idea that, you know, the whole vulva is supposed to be nice, clean and fresh with a light tinge of nice pink. I mean, they might have gone for some whitening procedures and things like that. So these women may not be showing their original vulvas.
We actually have had somebody ask us before, like, if let's say like the inner folds of the labia are like bigger than the outer folds, like is it abnormal? Like, is it like wrong to look that way? I don't know if you guys have seen before, but like there's this trend that's going around on Instagram. Okay, so basically Kendall Jenner was a model for this like new collection of like underwear, and basically there was one particular photo that grabbed everybody's attention, and that is like the micro thong, as they call it. So I think I'll put up a picture here if it's not copyrighted to show you guys, but I'm gonna show Dr. Angela. It looks like that.
Wow.
And
okay.
My point is that yeah lah, like she looks like I think the criticism was that like she looks like a Barbie doll. You know, like how Barbie dolls, like they don't have anything there. Like it's like completely
flat.
Yeah, you know, there's no like slits, there's no folds, there's nothing there, right? You don't have any genitals for Barbie dolls. And I think like it went viral because a lot of people were like, you know, she photoshopped it and everything. And then how it's really affecting like their self-esteem. So it's very interesting because I think more so about like how Kendall Jenner is posting on social media, like how her body looks, right, rather than pornography, is that we see or like we relate more to like these kinds of models and like Instagram influencers, right? Like we look to them for the ideal, you know, and like we want to be like them. Yeah.
Yes, which is very interesting. Then the question I have in my head, if we know that there's a great chance that this is photoshopped, why are we putting so much emphasis on it? You know, what is it that we are lacking in our own personal lives that we need to seek validation from an external source who don't even care about us? What's happening here in the world, really?
We're taking a short break. Something Private is a podcast produced under media publisher Our Grandfather's Story. Watch our new episodes every alternate Tuesdays on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcast every alternate Thursdays. New episodes will be published first on YouTube and we'll be publishing once every 2 weeks this season. We've also just launched our new website, so pay us a visit at somethingprivate.fm if you'd like to share your story with us or work with us. Otherwise, you can send us a message on Instagram at somethingprivatepod or email us at nicole@somethingprivate.fm. We're immensely grateful for all the support you guys have given us, and we really couldn't have come this far without you. If you'd like to keep supporting our work, become our Patreon at patreon.com/somethingprivatepod. That's patreon.com/somethingprivatepod. Now back to the episode. Nobody tells you from a young age that this is, firstly, like, you're okay, you're normal. This is how whatever you look like is like completely acceptable. And then second of all of us are like children of the internet, right? And when we grow up looking at Instagram and we see these kind of photos, we aspire to look a certain way. It's partially insecurity also, but I think it's also that nobody tells us like this is okay. You know what I mean? And then like it's very inevitable that we grew up with the internet that we will want to look a certain way or like be influenced to think like this is the standard that we should attain.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
so it's like, I think it's more like a societal problem rather than an individual problem. Not faulting anyone in particular, but you know, with the fact that a bunch of us grew up with the internet and without parents' guidance, and our parents were not savvy with the internet. They didn't know what internet was bringing to their children. You know, so everything was a free reign kind of thing. And neither had they realized how big an impact media and social media has on the image of their children. So to quote a study that was based in UK, they say that around 1 in 5 adults say that images used in advertising and images used on social media cause them to worry about their own body image. So I think it's quite frightening, like 1 in 5. We are 1 in 5, right? No, one of us on the table is going to feel that way. Yeah. Isn't it worrying? Because I think in Asia, we don't praise our children. Like say, there's this, it's very pantang, like say, if you say that your daughter or your son is, you know, good looking, he or she will grow up to be not good looking. Like if you praise them, they're smart, they'll grow up to be, you know, lazy and, you know, and then they don't do well in school and things like that. So as a result, we forgot to tell our kids that they look great just the way they are.
It's acceptable and normal, right?
Yeah. Like we need to tell or affirm them along the way so that they know they're okay, they need to be heard. So it's not just sex education, it's the whole thing about parenting, it's the whole thing about how society is coping with the changes.
But I also want to say that like personally, when I look at the Kendall Jenner like image of her micro tongue, I look at it and I'm like, okay, yes, I guess like she looks good. But like I personally don't feel like affected or like I don't feel like this is a standard that I want to aspire to. And I think like for a lot of like younger audiences, actually there's been like a moving trend on like TikTok where people are openly expressing that they have vulvas and like labias that like look very different. Just to share with you also, like basically the trend is about how like girls are like kind of reclaiming this kind of energy. They're like, you know, this is unattainable. Like whatever this Kendall Jenner has been posting is something that is unrealistic. And a lot of them have been like, yeah, you know, my vulva looks like roast beef patties. And yeah, like I think a lot of them are like saying that, you know, like my beef patties are like brown, like they're not like pink and like small and cute. And then they are even going as far to say as like, you know, I can't wear a thong because like if I wear a thong then it will be eaten up by like my beef patties. So I think it's great. I feel like it seems like there's a positive movement towards like accepting our bodies.
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's just like if your friend were to put something on IG, like, you know, posing beside a Lamborghini that his father just bought, are you going to be really upset at your friend and you know, hate your friend forever? You're not going to do that, right? So can we also see that all these body images are nothing different from material goods as well? They're just a part of us in its own way. And the moment that we can accept who we are, how we are, we don't have to be so bothered by what people have.
One question that we got from the previous episode we did also is like that anything is to do with the result of like internalizing some of the bad things that were said to individuals when they're growing up, right? So I think a lot of times like people laugh at women for like having camel toe, that kind of thing, or like when they wear too tight clothes, then like the vulva shape becomes very obvious. So basically this one person asked us like, oh, why is it that I have camel toe, or like why is it that like I cannot, when I wear certain like really tight leggings, right, like I don't look good? Is it because like I don't have a thigh gap? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like problematic. Like I feel like there's still a percentage of the population that is worried about how they look.
I mean, definitely. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was in secondary, I'm going to also review where each era I come from. It was quite popular to show the midriff.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not like every girl can show their midriff. It doesn't just look good on every girl. And of course, there are people who offer labiaplasty, like plastic surgery around the labia to make it more enticing and make it more like the ideal thing. So, tons of that. Yeah, just like how boob job was also once upon a time in advertisements. Well, you see, right, plastic surgery does have its positive effect on the psychology from time to time. It does boost a person temporarily. But of course, for something that, handles the root cause, to me is more efficient in the long run, so that you don't have to keep running back into the same problem. If you want to fix one part of your body, the next thing will be fixing another. It never ends there. If someone can actually work with you to find out what exactly is causing the insecurity, it's going to be a more long-lasting effect. But that, of course, will take more effort, getting down to what's really the hurt or the pain or the betrayal that's associated with all these insecurities.
Growing up in secondary school, I remember we would laugh like at girls who like didn't shave their armpits, or like funny photos, like the boys will show funny photos of somebody with a bikini line and then there's like hair sticking out, right? There's always these stories, and I think that like, to me personally, like I think that kind of made an impression on how I viewed my body hair growing up. And I think it took me a very long time to kind of realize that actually the most important thing is for me to feel comfortable with myself.
Yes.
And I mean, personally now I do like shave and stuff like that, and I go for like hair removal treatment, but I think it's more of the fact that like it makes the area like clean and comfortable, and also like for pubic hair, like it makes menstruation easier lah. But I think for a lot of us, like it really, there's a bit of like a fine line, right?
Yes.
Like between being influenced by society versus like really sitting down and asking yourself, is this what I want? Am I comfortable with it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because pubic hair have known to kind of be a protective covering for the whole genitals, and they actually reduce your chance of getting infection. So that was the purpose of pubic hair. Yeah, so, well, if you want to shave it, you have to be mindful of that, and then keep the area clean. And of course, the shaving cream that you might use, the blades that you use, you want to be mindful that it doesn't aggravate the pores in the area, because after all, it's a very sensitive area. Yeah, so I don't think it's like you should shave or you shouldn't shave. At the end of the day, is what you feel comfortable with. Some of us find it easier, especially if we already have a positive relationship with the rest of our body. It's so much easier to accept another part. But if we have a really negative relationship with our body, it's going to be really challenging, and you might want to seek professional help for that. I mean, honestly speaking, because sometimes we just can't get past our own mind blocks. Okay, and what I do, I'm not sure whether you guys have watched this particular video where a teacher actually showed the effect of praising an apple and scolding an apple.
I have never.
No, okay, the video goes like, so the teacher got the whole class to scold an apple, okay, and then got the whole class to praise an apple. And then she peeled the skin of the apple, and to realize that, the one that was being scolded ended up having rotten bits.
Really?
But then, and the one that was praised was all nice and pristine. Energetically, if you can imagine, if a child was constantly scolded and being belittled for whatever he has done, versus a child that was affirmed along the way, how would they grow up to be different? And same thing I would believe for any body parts. If you constantly judge this body part and constantly felt ashamed of it and embarrassed of it, how much negative energy or charge then resides in this area. And even though it's supposed to be an organ of pleasure, will it be able to receive the pleasure when it comes? Just like, the child who has been receiving critical comments, when the praise do come in, will he or she be able to receive that praise with grace or be skeptical about it? You see, it's the same idea here. So in order to fully embrace who we are and overcome the whole genital shame, it's actually a lot of internal self-work, I would say.
With this idea of like genital shame, there is also an aspect of like a very like cultural, like societal thing that we cannot really shake, because I think it's one thing to be like, oh, don't talk about your private parts, but it's inevitably linked to like sex, right? I think like we don't want to talk about our genitals, or like we try not to have that kind of conversation, because like the impression is that we don't want to encourage sexual activity. You know what I mean? So I guess the question is like, how can we then move away from that, if you know what I mean?
So how all this work, if you look at how we work as a human psyche, the more you try to hide something away from this person, what's the person going to do?
Seek it out.
Yeah. And then he or she may seek it out from uninformed sources, right?
Like pornography.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, I'm not sure that's UK, which one, Europe, they did a study. So those kids who has more formal holistic sexual education, their rates of teenage pregnancy is actually reduced. And their age of when they have their first sexual encounter is actually increased.
Like they only had their first sexual activity when they were older.
Yeah, so what does it say? It says that with informed consent and informed understanding, these kids are able to make decisions better that way. Because they are more mature to do so. It's like, if you are hush about this whole sex thing, and then the kids going to try to find their own ways to find out. They're going to find out among each other. They're going to experiment things with each other at a young age. And that's
They're going to look to social media.
Yeah, and then it's like, nowadays, it's kind of uncool if you are still a virgin in university. The kind of thing. So you can never catch up with all this kind of trend. So what can you do is really empower the younger generation with the right set of knowledge and let them make their own choices. So it's never about protecting them from the harm. It's always about empowering them the tools they need to have in order to handle the challenges that they have. So it's like saying, what I learned as a child or what I experienced as a child is going to be very different from what my child will experience. I can't teach my child everything that I know about the world. But what I can teach her are lifelong principles, be it integrity. When things come falling down the way, what is the integrity that you need to have to keep things in place? When things are difficult, when there are fearful moments, how do you have the courage to pick yourself up? When things come falling your way, how do you have the resilience and perseverance to get through? These are the things that I can teach her instead, because I can't foresee every situation she's going to have. You see, so it's not about protecting our children. It's about empowering and enabling them such that they are able to live their life to the fullest. At least that's what I think.
I guess on that note, what are some of the pieces of advice that you would give young people tuning in about their perceptions towards sex and like their genitals?
So it's like if there's some body parts that you're uncomfortable with, you might want to look into the whys. Because the whys may not be valid right now that we have grown up, but once upon a time, it was something that was valid. So like, for example, when we were young, our parents told us that we shouldn't expose ourselves as a way to protect ourselves. But now growing up, it's not that you should be showing yourself, to everyone. But with your chosen partners, you can then choose to make that reason invalid. And be proud to show who you are. You see, so it's going to be contextual that way. So as you kind of uncover what's really holding you back, that is a way to start working on how can you accept yourself for who you are. Okay, this is a survey about boobs. All right, so it was done amongst the UK and US, and it seems that a majority of men said they actually prefer C-cup size boobs. I mean, that's more for Angmos lah. Asians, you don't really get C-cup that often. Okay, but it was also interesting that even though most of their partners were not C-cup size, but more than 90% of the men say that they are satisfied with their partner's body. So a lot of times, I don't think is that our partners are judging our bodies. It's ourselves who are judging our own bodies. So it's only when we can accept our bodies for what it is, then we can also allow and not be skeptical when our partners are enjoying our bodies. Yeah, so I guess this is how it kind of works. You really have to be at ease with who you are to be able to take in all the pleasure that is readily available that way.
on that note about like partners judging you, I think the other thing about it's also common that sometimes like you hear like women like judging women as well. Like sometimes we say not so nice things about each other, or like we like identify pictures of like that friend on Instagram, and then we zoom into her bikini line and we're like, ee, like, you know, she has like something there, or like she never like take care of like her body part. So I think my point is that like this is a very negative space that we shouldn't like kind of perpetuate.
Yeah. I mean, okay, there's a line between putting our friends down, and there's also a line of, you know, what's going to be better for our friends. So sometimes you've got to be really mindful about who we are speaking to. Will this person take the comment to heart? Are they someone who's very sensitive about such comments? Or like if someone is trying to get a date and you want to offer advice to make her more attractive, I think that's somehow valid. So we got to really see the context.
It's true. The premise in which you are offering like the advice, right? I think the space that I live in is quite positive. So like they're all like, oh, you know, if we're all going for beach day, do you guys want to go to get like hair removal together? Like I know like a good place and we can all go together as like basically like a
bonding thing.
Like a bonding thing, like a girls session. So I don't know, I think like that's quite important.
I think that's all a good sign.
Women should empower women. Thanks a lot, Dr. Angela.
No worries.
Thank you.
Yay.